Behaviours are our greatest challenge and opportunity. Let me give you some context to why behaviours have become so critical in our work and workplaces. Tech has moved from assisting us in our work to doing it, and even the area of creativity that was once thought to be safe has already started to be cracked by AI. More and more of what we do is human, like leadership, innovation, care, and engaging with each other. If we look at the performance ingredients or the inputs required to create valuable productive outcomes, they're competence, motivation, and capacity. Competence impacts motivation, but motivation doesn't really impact competence other than the desire to gain competence. And competence impacts capacity, but capacity doesn't impact competence. The factors that influence performance outcomes have always relied on behaviour, but the weighting is getting greater and greater as our work and workplaces change. More and more of the challenges we face are impacted by behavioural competence, not taking away or detracting from the value of tech, but complementing it. I've created an indicator of scale of impact of behaviours versus technical, shown in the orange versus the blue, orange being behaviours in the words and blue being the technical. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it does give a feel. But organisations are still focused and set up to change and manage technical behaviours and competence, and not behaviours. This outdated approach is starting to hurt, with so many individuals becoming disenfranchised and job hopping to look for organisations who really care about people, customers, community and the environment. That's behavioural. Behaviours that would have once been considered private have become the very factors significantly impacting work, such as relationships, well-being, your energy, trust and confidence. And they all have a massive impact throughout the employee life cycle of our ability to attract people to our organisation, how we induct people into our organisation, the productivity we nurture and kind of achieve from the people that are in our organisation, how we promote people or either vertically or sideways, but how we keep the people that we want to within our organisation. Or if they leave because they have to, because there aren't any other places, but they would be welcome back and would welcome back, and they're great brand ambassadors for your organisation going forwards. Many businesses use the same approach and tools to change behaviours as they do technical competence, but they are different and require a different approach to create sustainable, effective change. This is our technical mind. It's fallow and ready for seeds we sow on it to grow. There's little or no conflicting growth there that would stop the seeds settling and getting the nutrition they need to grow without too much effort and energy. It's a place where everybody can pretty much be treated the same, and we can be sheep dipped through kind of training courses, and the outcome expected be pretty universal for people to be able to understand and accept. This is our behavioural mind, which is very different, and everybody has different experiences throughout their life, which means that their mind and their landscape is different. Behaviours, good and bad, from our environment have been planted and embedded in what we do, completely unconsciously. And then we replay these behaviours on autopilot with no judgment or ability to know if they're positive or negative on us or others. We all have different fields, which should be celebrated as we're all unique and beautiful. We all have a different understanding, needs and priorities. Some of us will have weeds that need to be deprived of energy to kill them off. Some will have fallow ground which will need new seeds planting, and existing growth will be nurtured and pruned to ensure the right growth. The journey can and should be supported by others, but for change to be sustainable and effective, we need to do the work from the inside. We need to own it, and that's what we enable individuals and organisations to do. After all, there is no behavioural school. We pick up behaviours from those we encounter throughout our lives, good or bad. And who defines which is which? Which is why we have so many different subcultures in our organisations, and just relying on people picking up and having the right standards and the right behaviours in an organisation, by picking that up, I think is naive and is dangerous for organisations. And how do you fix what you don't know? Now, how do you answer the question, how do I know what I don't know? It's not something you can ask Google or anybody else. It's something you have to be able to identify for yourself. And if we haven't defined it, it's hard to change. It's hard to recognise. And it's really hard to create a consistent movement to be able to help people. And when we do it ourselves, when we own it and we make our own choices, we can be responsible for those consequences. And we do become responsible for those consequences, and we typically look to change for the better. But when we're told what to do, it doesn't elicit the same response. And when you have a clear picture of where you're going, and when you have a clear picture of what the target is, you stand a damn good chance of hitting it. Not knowing what the target is really difficult to know where to aim. And when you have that clear picture, you can really build it together. Without it, conversations about behaviour become really emotional, and it either doesn't happen or it risks being really badly done. Those managers or leaders that are best equipped to have these conversations are few and far between, because they're managers that have kind of got to a stage in themselves and in their life where they're really comfortable with their lot, and they're now giving it and doing it for other people, and they're able to have some of those great challenges. Unfortunately, it's the minority and not the majority. So how do we equip people to do that? And you'll see in another video of mine, I think what we've got to do is accept that actually, is it that managers aren't competent in doing these things, or are we asking them to do the wrong thing? We've been trying to train competence in managers and leaders to be able to kind of do these things and coach them for decades, and yet we're still on that same journey and still revisiting the same thing. I'm not sure that it's that people haven't got the competence. I think it's that we're asking them to do the wrong thing or the impossible. When we treat people as jobs, we don't get the best out of people, and we only get to see part, and we only actually benefit from actually part of the skills that we see. There's a whole load of the person that we don't get to see when we treat them as a job. I think we'll start to see them becoming more and more outdated as roles and skills become more and more rich and lived and mobilised within organisations. Why? Because it's good for you and it's good for them. We built behavioural competencies that support people's proactivity to address things like well-being, leadership, self-leadership, my relationship with others, my relationship with myself, how I understand myself, how I problem solve, how I deliver brilliantly, how I stakeholder manage, how I kind of really build, business entrepreneurial skills into kind of knowing the customer, knowing the business environment, the ecosystem I operate in. Those are things that aren't tangible for people, and they're certainly not consistent across an organisation. For you to be able to kind of create this language and this culture and mobilise it so that you have the right standards in your organisation day in, day out that people can live. We've built that for you, and it's supported by development content, and it's mobilised in the platform, in our coach. But those things can be edited. You can delete them, you can edit them, you can add new ones, you can kind of add your own technical competencies if you want to, or your own values and standards. We've codified what experts around the world say are the skills and behaviours people need to be able to prosper. There is a demo that's available, or drop me a line and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about kind of what we do, how we do it, and the impact that we're having on organisations. Many thanks for your time.